All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Todd Browse. I'm your host for the evening. I'm here with Susan Schultz and Ashley Wilson, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. For those of you new to the Startups group, we have a few announcements at the beginning of each meeting, and then we'll do some short networking breakout rooms and then come back together for our main event. First off is our mission. We're here to help foster and fortify an innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. Our goals are to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to create and grow their businesses from the ground up. Susan.
And there are so many ways for you to get and stay in touch with us. We have our website, we have HBAP's website, we have our YouTube site where everybody that has given us permission to post all their presentations are on that YouTube site. There's a newsletter. If you haven't signed up yet, you'll get notifications on cool things to do and think about. If you're in HBAP or you've been in HBAP, and if you're not, definitely do it. But if you're in it, the Slack channel where you can find out things, and then always bring a guest, bring somebody you think might be interesting and interested, just like we got tonight with Rosa and her nephew. And then just a reminder that recordings will be posted publicly unless the speaker says otherwise. And we have, so we're missing a couple of things here. Okay. No, we're good. Right. So we've got some upcoming speakers, and they're just awesome. And we've got some more in the wings too that we're working on. But so October 30th is Andrea Brimmer, who's the founder of Hortitech. She's one of Kelly's students at Cal Lutheran. And so this is a really cool startup. So it utilizes NASA technology to purify agricultural wastewater by extracting ammonia and then repurposing it as a nitrogen fertilizer. So the pure complete cycle from waste to reuse. And so she's going to talk about her startup, which will be super cool. And then our own Rashan Mulwara, who is the head of data and analytics for Chevron Phillips Chemical, which is one of the largest chemical companies in the world. She just ran this really cool datathon on driving finance transformation. So she's going to talk to us about the results of that, but also how did she design it? How did she run it? How did she decide who won it? So it's going to be a really nice snapshot on how you drive innovation and data usage in big companies. So it ought to be super cool. And then on November 20th, we have Swin Wang, who's the CEO and creative director of a company called The Number Two. And she's an award-winning eyewear designer. And the reason that she started this company is because she couldn't find glasses that fit, as she said it, her Asian face. So she decided to just create it herself. So that ought to be a really interesting story about her journey. And then our code of conduct, we all know this, right? We're here to create an inclusive environment for everybody, keep it safe, keep it collaborative. All rights are reserved by the presenter. And we all know about the feedback. So just positive stuff, that's what works best for everybody. And then always a reminder, don't record things personally. We need to honor our presenters' rights and responsibilities. And then if you have anything that you want to talk to us about, or a conflict of interest, or some idea that you think is cool that you'd like to come talk to us about or present to us, reach out to Todd, me, Ashley, and we will help you figure it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to open up some breakout rooms, and I'll see you folks in about 5-6 minutes. Okay, everyone should be joining us back from the breakout rooms in a second. All right, I think everyone is coming back now from the breakout rooms. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all. I hope you had fun in your breakout rooms. Just a little reminder, at the end of our main event, when you exit Zoom this evening, please do fill out our survey. We are data people. We love feedback. We love information. Also, the recording tonight will be made public on our YouTube channel, and please do stick around for some overtime afterwards. We will be here all night, I think. It is my honor to introduce tonight's speaker, Jorg Yinat. Dr. Jorg Yinat is a seasoned educator and strategic consultant who imparts wisdom and knowledge and consulting services at his company, Enterprise IO. He's also an adjunct professor of business and management at Christopher Newport University. His expertise encompasses organizational behavior, strategic management, and the seamless melding of human and artificial intelligence within digital business transformation. He's worked in diverse industries such as manufacturing, healthcare, education, and government, using various techniques and technologies such as statistical modeling and machine learning and augmented intelligence integration and business intelligence tools. He believes in the transformative power of collaborative strategic planning and the essential role of leadership in guiding teams to success. And he's also the author of a new book called Let's Get Digital, a transformation guide to the future of business and entrepreneurship. And he's also an HBAPer. And lastly, please do stick around to the very end of the evening, and we will be sending out a sign-up form for those of you who are here to receive a copy of Jorg's book. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much. And without further ado, as is our custom here at HBAP Startups, if we could all please briefly unmute ourselves, and let's give a warm round of applause to Jorg Yinat. Jorg, thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to also put a link to your book in the Zoom chat. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you, Todd, and good evening, everyone. It's really so nice to see so many HBAP colleagues here tonight. And thank you, Todd, Susan, and Ashley for this opportunity and for the kind introduction. And I'm going to turn it back on you. And please open your mics and please, at this time, give a round of applause to Todd, Susan, and Ashley for keeping these HBAP startups every Wednesday going for us. Really great opportunity for us to learn from one another. So I am thrilled to share insights into my journey of the evolution of digital landscapes and businesses. And I thought I would start by talking a little bit about my journey. But before I do that, I have to make a confession. I have to probably admit that despite of spending 30 years in the military service and working in digital strategies in academia, I'm still struggling to figure out how to work the TV controls and the TV remote at home. So if anyone out there knows how to program these TV remotes, you'll be on my list of tech geniuses.
I can help you with that, man. Just, yeah.
Yeah, but here I am writing about remote work environments and about remote and distributed work environments, and I still don't know how to use a remote control to my television, right? So in my experience over 30 years in the military, in uniform and the Department of Defense consultant and contractor, and a training developer for the Department of the Army, I ran into some situations where I said, okay, I need to do something else and think outside the box. So that's how this idea of going the digital route and starting learning more about the digital transformation, which led me then into thinking in terms of writing this book titled Let's Get Digital. And it's not let's get physical, as the song says, it's let's get digital, right?
So you decided to write a book. What the heck were you thinking?
Yeah, imagine. So I said I wanted to share my experiences with my journey through HBAP and MIT with a digital health course that I took, and share all that fresh knowledge as it's evolving. I remember sitting in the classroom way back in November of 23, or it was a 22 when, correct me here. So when was it? November of 23 or 22? This is 24 now. So it was probably November of 22, sitting in the classroom at HBAP when one of the professors said, have you heard of ChatGPT? And by the way, this will code for you. So I said, what does that mean? I'm not a coder. So I said, let me check into that immediately, right? So digital transformation, as I see it, is the overarching term using current technologies in automation, business analytics, Internet of Things, IoTs, artificial intelligence, as we know it, so many different variations of that, and which I call in the book augmented intelligence. Why I call it augmented intelligence? Because I think that humans will never be replaced by artificial intelligence, but we are going to be augmented by these tools, right? So instead of calling it artificial intelligence, this is another tool that we humans are going to use to augment our knowledge base, or our way to research, or our way to do things faster and better. So, and more is coming online so rapidly that it's so difficult to keep up with that. As you can imagine, we have been exposed in HBAP to so many of these tools, and they are getting better and better by the day, right? So as you can probably imagine, it's really has been a journey for me trying to think outside the box. Remember, put it into context, I come from a very rigid, very regimented structure organization that is called DoD, the Department of Defense. Consequently, before the pandemic, I enrolled myself into a PhD program through Capella University. And while thinking about all these remote work environments, I decided to write a dissertation. And my research between the years of 2010 and 2014, it really took me about 4 years to complete all that. And then, I consistently identified, the issues about productivity, the value of productivity and productivity opportunities in the implementation of remote work environments. Come to find out that in the findings of the research, it indicated that indeed, when employees are empowered by management, employees are much more productive, efficient, and responsible. So therefore, in essence, what we're seeing here is that just in Leadership 101, it requires a profound mindset shift from managerial and leadership perspective in a very old school work environment, which is, the Department of Defense as part of the federal government. So therefore, these challenges became, in my mind, an opportunity to demonstrate that using remote work environment, this could leverage and bring about radical changes in productivity and responsibility from employees. And then, of course, this is a dissertation research which employed a survey used on 170,000 respondents, all employees of the federal government. So what is interesting here is that it pointed out to the obvious by evaluating all those factors, in a regression analysis. It indicated that, if management allows it and provides the tools and all the equipment necessary for employees, that remote work environment is really a really viable option for any organization to do business. And in terms, put it in perspective, if the Department of Defense can fight wars remotely from Arizona and flying drones all the way into, for example, the Middle East, imagine that is a remote way of doing things. Why not having other employees do the same? So it was really fascinating to see that the data analysis validated that approach in distributed work environments, and then proved that productivity, if sanctioned properly by management, could work. And all these tools that we know they're very prevalent, proliferated at this moment, like laptops and mobile phones, flexible work arrangements, secure connectivity to servers and access to databases, and much more is really the way to go to get people as productive as possible. So now let's fast forward into the future, right? We were hit by the pandemic, and then organizations continue to evolve in implementing this remote work environment on behalf of what is important to know here is on behalf of the stakeholders, right? The stakeholders, we're talking about our clients, our customers, and so on. So technological advances proliferated post-pandemic years as we know it, but Zoom, Teams, and GoToMeeting platforms, for example, were sporadically used or rarely used prior to the pandemic. Excuse me. And then, of course, nowadays we see that that is really the norm way of doing business. And we all know that, let's take it a step further. Nowadays, businesses, organizations are much more productive and efficient than ever before because of advances in satellite communications, automated data analysis, computational power, and of course, the assistance of artificial intelligence. In my book, I call it augmented intelligence, where the sky is really the limit in terms of creativity and productivity. So therefore, it is really up to us as a community of HBAPers, academics, venture capitalists, business analysts, and leaders of all industries to carry the torch forward for generations to leaders and managers in every industry to design and develop organizations that are not only productive and efficient, but foremost designed to serve the end user. And when I call the end user in the book is the customer, the client, in fact, all stakeholders. And therefore solving their pain points as we know in business. So with all that said, I'm looking forward to an engaging, I thought about doing something like a conversational type of meeting tonight. And Todd, turn it over to you. Let's get
Oh man, so now the pressure's on. So I mean, I've got a bunch of questions and stuff for you. But so your book, which I've read your book, it's fantastic. Thank you for this. You describe it as a manifesto for change, and because digital transformation is all about change. What do you see as the most crucial aspects for a business to embrace that in the age of AI?
Well, it's inevitable. Change is one of those things that if we don't embrace it, it's going to happen anyway, right? So, and we know that from philosophy. So we either embrace it or we as business owners are going to be left behind. That's really the bottom line. We need to embrace this change and don't be afraid of change. It's going to happen with us or without us.
So do you have any examples? What examples are success and failures of the digital transformation?
It's a day-to-day. Let's take, for example, Amazon. Do you think Amazon would be able to exist without digital transformation and the way they do business? How many of you shop at Amazon, and why do you do it? I would love to hear the audience and see what the advantage of using Amazon versus going to the store.
Well,
For example,
I'll say it's convenient.
I'm sorry?
It's convenient.
It's convenient, yeah.
The transformation of the notion that I can order basically anything
Right.
and have it show up within 2 days is mind-blowing. The productivity gains for society are almost incomprehensible. Kudos to Jeff Bezos for inventing that and coming up with the business model to architect that.
Yeah, Instacart is another good example where you can just purchase things online and go pick it up at the store or get it delivered. So this, the sky is the limit when it comes to productivity and facilitating our human existence, our human life, and our way of life.
And so, what are some of the, in your research, what are some of the mistakes, some of the failures of digital transformation? What do we need to be aware of not to do?
I go back to our first question, which is the lack of embracing change. And if we remember the business model, I think it was Blockbusters. Everybody remembers
Blockbuster, yeah.
the
Netflix, yeah.
Blockbusters, the example there, where they were left behind, right? Because they didn't want to adjust to the changes in digitalization. And Netflix took off, with that way of thinking. So that was a big failure and a big short-sighted approach from management.
So I
I
mean,
think
I'm sensing a little ambidexterity, Tushman O'Reilly type theory here, in
exactly.
order to recognize that we need to make the change. So that's the why in order to stay competitive. So how do you make it happen? You mentioned, people and employee empowerment. I can imagine that that's going to be really, really hard to get everybody on board.
One of the things that I found in my research while I was writing my dissertation is that management really plays a big role into all this by embracing change and talking about change in the right way, change management, and then of course having the employees be part of the solution versus just consuming the information, but being part of the solution that brings everybody around the table, and then be part of the conversation to solve a situation or a problem. So it's really management is empowered to do more. So if they just bring everybody on board to facilitate that change.
Easier said than done, though. I mean, that's a cultural problem. That's
Yes.
a cultural thing. Like, hey, we have a problem. How do you communicate that to the workforce? Again, from the C-suite all the way down. How do you get that? I mean, I hate the word, but buy-in. How do you empower employees and the management to do that, to encourage this?
Yeah, it's really a great question there because not everybody's going to buy into that particular philosophy. So it's going to take several iterations of what's going on at the company, a particular company or industry. But I think the fundamentals of leadership 101 are there.
Mm.
When people are treated in a way that they are part of a solution or they could be part of the solution versus just part of a problem. I think that people will just come around the table and say, hey, I want to be part of the solution and I want to be part of this great movement.
I mean, I guess it depends on the industry and what the actual organization is like. But I can imagine where you have a number of employees who do their job, and again, this is pre-digital transformation, so they have whatever it is that they do, but then all of a sudden, those roles, those jobs, their tasks, and don't get me started on AI. We'll come back to that. But those tasks post digital transformation are going to completely change. That's going to require a new skill. That can be an existential threat to their job. Like, hey, we do this, I'm out of a job. How do you bring a resistant worker
Right.
along for the ride? How do you incentivize them?
No, it creates a lot of resistance because the human nature will say immediately, hey, I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah.
And so human nature is going to be very reluctant, very rejecting of that notion. But again, if you bring him around the table and say, okay, we are all part of this transformation in this company or in this industry, and we are going to solve this together. I think those are the fundamentals of leadership 101. And when you can reassure people that they're part of that solution and they will not lose their jobs, they just may have to get reskilled and learn to do things differently. But yeah, if you reassure your people that they're going to be taken care of and that they're part of the solution, I think you'll get a lot of buy-in to the solution.
I love it. It's funny. I was writing an article which I didn't publish. The hypothesis was that if you haven't already completed a digital transformation by today, that you would not, it was too late for you to benefit from generative AI because the entire organization was not set up to benefit from generative AI. You're still using old methodologies, old communication, old processes. So in the age of AI, you haven't completed the digital transformation, so you're done. I never published it, but I would love to know, and there's a reason why, because I believe that we don't need to, but I want to know what your thoughts are. Is it too late to start a digital transformation today?
Yeah, I don't think it's never ever too late to start yesterday.
Well, it's never too late to start yesterday. Damn it. Okay.
Instead of starting right now, right? So, but I really would like to hear from the audience right
Sure.
now, if you can, Todd, about what they feel about starting a digital business transformation or a digital business from scratch. When would they do it? Would they do it when they have more of a mature AI system in place, or would they do it now and then evolve into what comes up later? I think that Victor wants to
Yeah.
participate.
Victor just raised it. So, folks, please raise your hands. I'll pin you up here and come join the conversation. Thanks, Victor.
Yes, thank you for sharing your thoughts tonight, York. I'm glad you said what you just said in the transition, because my question has to do with something that you may have thoughts on along the way of your studies and your, of course, life and work experience. And that is the difference between transformation and starting something, as you just mentioned, from scratch as digital native, taking advantage of the currently available, reliable, and forward-thinking tools that are out there. And I'll preface it by saying I agree with you that no matter where you are, something can always change for the better, because everything around us changes. The business dynamics are so dynamic that there's always some reason to make an improvement. But contrast that with everything that you've studied and written about in terms of, if you were to start a from scratch company today with presumably a novel product that will succeed. How do you see, I'll just use the word digital without transformation. How do you see digital playing into that scenario, and is it different than a transformation from something to something else?
Uh, great point of view, great question, great comment, Victor. You know, this is my opinion, right? So, we could have different opinions here. It's okay, but I would say to start the sooner the better, and adapt to the changes as you go along. But that's just me thinking. If we were to wait for the latest toy or the latest procedure or the latest gadget to be invented to start something, we would never start anything. So, because we will always be waiting for the next best thing. Uh, AI is not perfect. We all know that. It makes mistakes. It started horrific with all kinds of hallucinations. It's getting better, right? It's getting better over time. It's getting more trained over time with more data, and more data points. But well, here's the thing. I would start as soon as possible, and then I would go through the typical phases of transformation to get it to the point where it serves the client, serves the customer, it serves the stakeholder, and solve those pain points. Susan and I were talking about, Susan, remember we were talking about the other day about the emphasis that we should have as businessmen and women here is the stakeholder. So what are we solving for that client and that customer should be our guiding north in the GPS, so to speak, in our map. Because if we concentrate in solving the pain points for the customer, then everything else will fall into play in terms of the digital, whether we start digital all out or we transforming into something that will serve that particular client customer. Does that answer the question, Vic?
Yes, sort of. But if you would indulge me, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to give you an example, a potentially real world example. Just presume for the conversation that you, with all of your military background and all of your business background and all of your PhD studies on transformation and the effect of digital and remote and everything, right? If you were asked to start a new branch of government called Space Force? Right? Doesn't exist, right? It's something new. It can probably learn from adjacencies like the Air Force or like other divisions, right? But I guess what I'm getting at in my question is, does anything come to front of mind that you would do differently to start a new agency versus transforming the Navy into something more digital?
It's a very interesting question. I mean, what's first, the chicken or the egg, right? So when do we start? By the way, there is a space command already in place, and I think it's part of the Air Force now. But it is out there. Again, I would go back to look at the needs versus the wants. I would go back and say, do we need these right now, and what problem is solving? It's really business fundamentals 101, which is going to transform our business way of doing business. So is the Space Force needed? What does it solve? What are we trying to accomplish with that? It goes back to a regular, normal business planning document. Let's draw the strategy. Let's write the business plan with all the parts and pieces to include financial projections, and then go for it. If it's really, really solving a problem. So I would go back to the problem, define the problem very, very well, and then try to solve that problem with technological advances, digital transformation, digital tools and equipment, and then, of course, empowering ourselves as individuals and humans that are going to be really behind all these tools, managing all these tools, and learning all these tools to operate them to the maximum capacity. Thank you for the questions, Victor.
Yes, thank you. I think the most important thing you said after going back to basics is understanding the problem before you try to answer my question, right?
Absolutely,
So,
Victor.
yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks, Victor. Kelly Kimball.
Hey, George, nice to see you again. It's been so long.
George,
George and I get each other every, we do the breakout groups. It's a weekly thing for us. Yeah, look, I'm really sort of schizophrenic on this. And on one hand, we use every AI we can possibly get our hands on in our company. From our programming staff down to our warehouse staff, right, and our auditors and our salespeople. I mean, we implement AI virtually everywhere. But as a digital transformation, and I mean an enterprise-wide transformation, I go the other route. I'm not as a business leader, I'm not enamored with the fact that I've got to digitally transform my company. I don't see the competitive threat coming up behind me. And it's not that we're not looking, and it's not that it's invisible to us, but it's certainly not there. There are other competitive threats that are out there other than AI. I look at the state of AI right now, and I see the platform companies. I see the foundation companies, and they seem relatively stable as businesses. But even the technology shifts so quickly that it's kind of risky if we are going to do any sort of mission critical activities with them. And I see 1,000 other companies out there that may or may not be in business by the time I get around to implementing their technology. The instability of not AI, because when we talk about, the part of my schizophrenia is I love AI, love the promise of AI, but when we talk about AI, we're talking about a concept, but we're not talking about the actual, the providers of AI that are out there that we're relying on. And when we get down to that level and we start looking at who we're going to trust with AI, and I think Maggie brought this up like months ago, some of the pitfalls of actually trusting some of these companies out there. It makes it very difficult to go head on into any sort of AI digital transformation, if you will. So I was just going to get your opinion on that. If maybe I'm just a little bit too conservative, maybe I'm just a little too old, but it does make me a bit nervous that I'm going to put a lot of my company at risk if I follow this trend.
Right. So you're skeptical. You're in the skeptical category by implementing or being very cautious about implementing AI. One of the things that I
And
mentioned.
by the way, let me just jump in. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, I'm cautious about the implementation of AI. I'm not skeptical about AI.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's the timing of the implementation and when should I actually pull this trigger?
Right, right,
Go
right.
ahead, sorry.
So one of the things that I talk about in this book is that I use the digital transformation as an overarching theme to include artificial intelligence, the old term of Internet of Things, data analysis or databases, and so on and so forth. Automation is part of the digital transformation. So I see it as the overarching topic, and then you have so many different other things that are working sometimes together, but sometimes by themselves. So like artificial intelligence really is the flavor of the day or the month or the year. But really, it all started with this digital transformation, and even before AI, we had digital transformation. We had sensors in the forms of using the Internet of Things. And we were implementing all that very rapidly as well. For example, I can give you an example of home security, where the sensors around your house will connect your AC and HBAP units and your cameras in the house. You can all manipulate all that through your phone, your cell phone, your mobiles, and then you can manipulate all those sensors the way you wanted them. That was part of digital transformation. AI was not there at that time. Now we're injecting this artificial intelligence with much more knowledge, much more faster these days. We can use, the thermostats in the houses. Now we can inject artificial intelligence to correlate the outdoor temperature and the inside humidity to come up with a comfort level. And then the cameras around your house can, for security purposes, can be integrated into your whole security system. So using AI. So it's another step that we've used under digital transformation, overarching term, to make ourselves as humans much more productive and much more intelligent, augmented by all these machines. So I would go ahead and use it and practice with it as much as we can.
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, and I mean, in our case, as I say, it's permeated virtually every part of our company. But we're not an AI first company, and I think that digital transformation from AI enabled to AI first is where I have a little bit of skepticism, at least on the timing of it. I mean, there might be a time when we have to do that and we have to change everything,
Right.
become an AI first company. So my skepticism is really all around just timing. A lot of companies showing up every single day promising, some amazing new things in AI, but they're just like the rest of us out there as startups anyway, that, are they actually going to be around in a month or two? They're going to get funded, and relying upon these companies right now is really kind of nerve-wracking. I feel like I can rely upon OpenAI, and I can rely upon certain, as I said, foundational AI providers. But even with those guys, they change their tech so rapidly right now that you could get into a little bit of trouble even relying heavily upon that technology. So it's a difficult, the whole digital transformation in the age of AI right now is inspiring and it's exciting, and it's like new companies are popping up all over the place, but it's also fraught with the kind of danger that I don't think we've seen before in previous digital transformation opportunities there, if that makes sense.
One thing that as Todd mentioned, and one of the things that I do is to teach students at the MBA level at the Christopher Newport News University. And one of the things that I tell my students is, sometimes I get confronted by, now that I have AI, why should I study this further or do this or do that? And I said, hey, this is one thing, but you need to know what right looks like. And the only way that you're going to find out is by getting the knowledge of these fundamentals in business or whatever strategy you want to use for finance or accounting. You have to know what right looks like. And it goes back to your very important question and concern, Kelly, because yes, we may not want to go to implement fully, and we may not want to trust AI right off the bat because all the issues. But at the beginning, I said the humans will never be replaced by AI, and I'm gonna die with that thought. I think because um, these are only machines that are programmed to help us do our jobs better, to think better, faster, more efficiently. But we have to always go back and check them, check their outputs and their answers. And the only way to do that is to know what right looks like. And that's why we're here. I mean, we go to the Harvard Business Schools, we go to other universities, we learn this, we learn that. As humans, we need to know what right looks like before we continue to implement all these great tools that are at our disposal.
Thanks, Kelly. So you've heard me put my, flag in the ground repeatedly with this stuff, and building on what Kelly said about an AI first organization, my hypothesis is that AI first is not for an incumbent, because for an incumbent organization to become an AI first, and there I have an example, an exception, and that's Salesforce. That Benioff is like, we're now all agentic. So everyone in that entire organization is kind of doing a similar pivot to what Jeff Bezos did with Amazon. Everything in the organization has to be through an API. That is a mandate from the organization. So to become for an organization, for an incumbent to become an AI first, that's a massive change. But I believe that the risk to the incumbent is the startup who is fully AI first. So the example is Ant Financial. How you can handle billions of transactions, billions of customers with 100,000 people. That is a completely different business model, a completely different architecture with generative AI. And this is my stake, that we are going to be experiencing business model changes at levels that have never been seen before. What are your thoughts on that?
It's again going back to fundamentals in business, right? So it is a moving train, it's a fast moving train.
Moving train.
we need to adopt it as soon as possible, and then we need to learn from our own way of doing things, and then adapt to that as well, and continue to embrace change.
So it's an exponential change. It's not going. It's not going to slow down.
Absolutely, it's not going to slow down. It's going to speed up.
It's going to speed up. Yeah, it's exponential. Right? That's right. Victor, you got your hand up again.
Yes, I want to raise a different perspective in listening to Kelly's concerns as a business owner. It raised the question in my mind: are we asking the wrong question about AI? And what I mean by that is, would we be better off to ask the question, what insights do I need to operate my business more efficiently, to compete, to survive, to innovate, and let those answers drive us to the tools that will get us there? Some of which may be AI, some of which may be traditional, or any combination.
That's an interesting concept. I mean, it brings me to the times of prompt engineering. Are we asking the right question? And how detailed can we be about asking those or prompting those questions to our assistants or to our tools? Go ahead, Todd.
The problem with prompt engineering is that as a long-term job, that's gone. We have technologies that have automated the process of finding the optimum prompt.
Right. No, I kind of tend to agree with you, Todd, because, we need to all be prompt engineers ourselves instead of relying on someone to do the prompt engineering. So
right.
We need to get very good at this prompt engineering on an individual basis.
I don't know if I agree, because you can now ask the AI and give and explain to an agent, tell me, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's the mission. Here's the goal. The agent itself, the tools, the technology themselves will figure out what is the right step to take? What is the right prompt to a large language model to go on to next? So that's the, like, if you don't expect to get a job as a prompt engineer for very long. It still exists, but I question its longevity. I don't know.
It was just created as well. So
Yeah, in and out real fast.
yeah.
So let's go to Maggie.
I
Maggie.
think Cynthia was first.
Oh,
But
well, I think Maggie was next, and then we'll go
okay.
to Nagaraj and then Cynthia.
Okay.
Thanks, Victor.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I have a
Victor.
question.
Bye, Maggie.
Yeah, so I have a question regarding the complexity of all that. So for you, what are the top 3 or simplifying principles that you recommend for organizations who are feeling overwhelmed by digital transformation?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the whole question. Can you please repeat?
What are the top 3 recommendations to give to organizations who are feeling overwhelmed with digital transformation?
I think we talked about a couple of those, and I talk in the book about change management. It's key to leaders to understand change management, and then bring everybody around the solution. That's another technique that I use in organizations to bring everybody to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. You get more buy-in to the actual change that you're trying to implement. And you probably get the change itself, the end solution refined to the point where everybody can adjust to it easier, faster. Yeah.
Thanks, Maggie. Let's go to Nagaraj.
Hey, thanks, Todd. I have more like something which I have to share, not a question I have. So when I look at, like, I work in the procurement and supply chain function for most of the CPG companies, manufacturing companies. And when we look at digital transformation, many of the organizations have already started. The challenge what they're facing is when they look at their internal system within the ecosystem, within the enterprise, they have a lot of digital transformations already up and running. Still, there are some players who are still, looking to digitize it. For example, many of the organizations still have the contracts which they've signed with the various suppliers in the unstructured PDF documents. Okay. It is, and now they are started to think, how do I now digitize this? And then use Gen AI to synthesize the data from thousands of contracts and how I can actually get insights from these contracts. And is there, a deviation in my contract template? Because, I don't have a single standard template for contract with all my suppliers, right? So now enterprises have started the digital transformation in that area, while in other areas, like, for example, if you're already doing sourcing, if you're already selling your products, you have well-established SAPs, Oracle systems, which actually manages all your transactions. But when you go beyond enterprise, right, because now for many of these organizations to be resilient, they just cannot work within the enterprise. They have to look at beyond the enterprise. Means they have to build a connected ecosystem with every partner they are working in the industry, right? So if you look at, maybe, there are thousands of retailers, thousands of distributors who are selling your product. You don't know what is happening in those stores today because you don't even have the data. So now organizations have started to get that into the enterprise, get the external data, right? That's where, your APIs is going to be much more important because you need to get the data on a real time. Okay. So far, organizations were dependent on what they sold to the channel partners to forecast. Okay, which is not the real demand. The real demand is in the stores when they sell the product to the consumer. So how do I even know whether, what has been selling, what is the inventory? So now most of the organizations have started, getting that. So I would still say that that's a digital transformation, which they're trying to do. Once they have the data, then there is a scope for AI, because when you bring the data from thousands of different sources, you have the data in silos, right? Because not everybody is going to give the same structure, same format, same attributes, and somebody calls shampoo a different thing, hair care, shampoo, different categories. How do I now use those AI models to streamline the data and then use it with my data to, make things, I can go on and on, talk about this subject, but just wanted to bring this perspective in terms of I have seen, some of the very good AI use cases. I'm definitely sure there are many things which are already um, implemented, which is already in the production. Gen AI is still, in the POC stages. For example, one of the things is traditionally you would have taken a lot of this data, you would have built a dashboard, which would have given you some insights and opportunities. Now people are starting to think about, why do you even ask the business users to go and navigate through the different dashboards, different reports? Why can't I just put a conversational AI on top of it, so that they can just ask a question and get the insights, right? So that's where I see the trend. It's still not in the production, but I think the organizations have already started doing it. Means I have been involved in many POCs. I can't talk too much of details about it because of the nature of the work I do, but I would be more than happy to share if anyone wants to connect.
That's interesting. Very, very interesting. What industry are you in?
I am in the IT industry, but I work in the procurement and supply chain functions,
Yeah.
in marketing, sales, distribution.
And I imagine this is a huge organization that, because you mentioned something about silo information.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are like, you can think of the number one CPG company still have a problem.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
If I can use just an example of something that was used way back when by in the Department of Defense, Department of the Army, something called Lessons Learned, or there used to be an organization called Centers for Lessons Learned. And this is way before digitization and way before AI, of course. I'm dating myself here, but one thing that has been very, very instrumental in these Centers for Lessons Learned is that now all this information is captured within that organization and then can be indexed and then have an internal AI system that can handle all that information. I think in our previous meeting, we were talking about that example of the Centers for Lessons Learned, and how much information and how much new people or new members of the organization can learn from previous experiences by just pulling that information that happened maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Under the same conditions, you can query very fast with an internal artificial Gen AI system and get the final solutions or information that you need to gather for your next operation, for example. Something like that, I think, will be very beneficial to your industry, Naranj, because I think you can capture all that information, and you're talking about contract writing and contract development or contract evaluation. You can very quickly handle that with an internal Gen AI system for your company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Primarily we have those platforms and we sell those platforms to our clients. So we do have AINX platform, which helps in contract extractions, digitization of the data, and then we do have some AI models to run on top of that.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, Nagaraj, I think what you're describing is absolutely fantastic. And I think that now is the time to do that kind of stuff, which is, by the way, what I said earlier. It's not too late to do the digital transformation. You can start tomorrow, maybe not the day after, George. I mean, like maybe, but with the technologies that are available right now, my hypothesis is that if you start today, you'll be able to accomplish it faster, better, and cheaper than your competitor who started 12, 18, 24 months ago. So that's the opportunity. That's why, like the benefit of waiting until the technology matured might have been a really good, whether it's intentional or accidental, it's a really good place to be right now. But yeah, analyzing information, the deviations and templates in contracts, that's got my head spinning. And yeah, we could do that. Like
That's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, like that's like, oh, exciting problem. Yeah,
Exciting problem to solve.
very, very much so. Yeah, I'm jealous. All right, let's go to Cynthia. You're next. Let me bring you up to the stage here. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi. So I
Hi.
feel like, and I've run into this a lot, is that I feel like we always go from the range of really startups that really are super innovative, willing to try anything, willing to take the risk taker, so forth. And then you have your really large companies, which have all the resources in the world, presumably, that they could do anything they want, and they really understand that they need to do digital transformation. But then there's everybody in between. And I think it's that group that really does get confused and overwhelmed of not only what is digital transformation, is it data, is it technology, is it AI, is it everything? And then they just start, now it's too much, I can't do it, and they get overwhelmed by it. So I wonder what people have to do first is get into the mindset of what digital transformation is and what it really means to maybe to the world in a sense versus what it means to their company. And then I guess my question really is there anywhere out there, or have you developed a list of questions, anywhere from like 5 to 20 questions that could start people on that journey? So every time they put in place a new process, every time they put in place maybe a little innovation that they're trying to do, every time they're thinking about the next goal that they're setting, that they have to answer these set of questions to at least get them thinking about, I can't do it the way I did it before, but this is how I got to think about it going forward. And maybe the CEO of that smaller company says 50% of your new processes, you have to answer these questions explicitly for me. If you do that, you're meeting my goal, but it's also training them on how to think differently about how their processes need to be different, and really laying out what's maybe the what am I gaining by doing this? What am I losing by doing this? What do I have to go outside of my standard process to do? I don't know what all the questions are, but there should be a list of like a finite number of questions that people can go through and really get them thinking differently about what they're doing. And I'm wondering if you've thought about that, and if you have any suggestions on what are the primary questions to be asking.
Definitely. I have to refer to my book, and there is a section especially about questions for entrepreneurs and new business owners to kind of brainstorm what they need to think through before going digital with their digital solutions to solve pain points for the clients, right? So it's all with the end objective. We are going to do something because we're going to be more efficient, much more productive on behalf of the clients, right? So everything points toward that direction. How can we help the client? Now, if you please write your email on the chat box, I will send you a copy of the second edition of Let's Get Digital, so you can get those questions. I know some of you will get the current edition, but I'm willing to. In fact, why don't you all write your emails there in the chat box, and I will send you a copy of the second edition in progress right now.
Well, I've got I'll put the sign-up sheet for I was going to wait till the end to release the sign-up sheet, and I can give you the emails.
But because he wants to know the questions right now, I thought.
Yeah.
I think the sign-up sheet is for the first edition, because that's the one that's published, right?
It is, but I can give Jorg the email addresses
for the second edition.
For the second edition.
Yeah. In draft, it's still in draft form, but you'll get it. You'll get it. And hopefully that will be kind of a brainstorming of those questions that Cynthia is talking about. What do we ask And I always go back to the fundamentals. What are we solving with these digital tools and digital transformation? So I think that's the guiding north about, you know, these digital tools that we're going to use. We're going to start a business from scratch. What are we solving, and what tools are out there today that we can use to enhance those changes on behalf of the client customer? But yeah, those questions are in there just as a brainstorm in the book.
All right,
Yeah,
so
and I
I'm,
just,
oh,
in some
go ahead,
ways, I
Stephanie.
think I think in some ways it needs to be changed a little bit to what we've previously asked, because we've always asked those questions, right? What's the tools that we should use to be more efficient? We've always asked that forever. But now in the mode of digital transformation, I think that question needs to be slightly changed to think about it in a different way. And I'm not really quite sure how to twist that, but I feel like if you ask that question, what tools do we use to, get more efficient? They're just going to say, well, we'll use Microsoft Excel and, we'll just write a better formula. You're not really saying, how are you really changing things? How are we being transformational about it? And I don't know what the questions are, but there has to be some questions that people thinking maybe bigger than what they have in the past.
You're right, Cynthia. And the book is very generic. It's designed to brainstorm the thought process for entrepreneurs. And it's really divided into 8 parts. The first one is, of course, is about understanding digital business transformation. What is that? A little bit of history on that. The second part is the elements of business transformation. Take a look at that. Then the redesigning of the business. And one thing that I emphasize there is the design for purpose, the design of the business for purpose. And what is the purpose? I think we've talked about that tonight. Is the user-centric that is going to benefit the client or the customer. Part 4 is the required technologies and tools as we know them today, right? And we know already that technology is advancing so fast that these tools are going to change in no time. Part 5 is the digital transformation strategies and management, some management philosophical techniques on how to do that and how to embrace change, the evaluation of strategies and all that. Part 6 is the future of digital transformation as I understand it, and as we are going through that very quickly. And then part 7 is my thoughts about what the digital journey should be for an entrepreneur. And then I added there some case studies and digital transformation, and then the list of resources that are associated to all the research that I did to write this book. But I'll send you a copy of this, Cynthia, and you'll have it and you'll see the questions there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Your
You're
time
welcome.
and answers.
You're
Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia. Susan.
Yeah, so this is awesome. This is great. And I want to switch gears a little bit here because you've gone ahead and written not 1, but 2 books. And I think we have a lot of people in our community that are pondering writing a book or kind of partway through writing a book or have written a book. And so it would be great if you could share with us, like, what were your tips and tricks? What did you learn? All of that kind of stuff about writing a book and getting it published.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Susan. And I tell you, this is a very humbling experience. I have to tell you, not everybody can publish under the Harvard Business Press, of course. But if you think in terms of a way to contribute with your knowledge to the rest of the community, just by all means get on Kindle. Kindle has a great platform. That's what I use. I always wanted to go with the ebook versus a hard book. And so I can, the strategy there was to reach out as many readers as possible around the world. And, the logistics of sending or mailing books out was not feasible for me. So I decided to go with an ebook under the Kindle brand. under a brand that I created called Digital Link and Publishing, e-publishing. And then that is, that's what the book is all about. It's published under the title, my name, and then the publishing house called Digital Link e-publishing. And then I use the platform, very easy to use, very user-friendly. Again, one of those digital transformation miracles from Amazon, where you just go in there and set up an account, it's your own business account, of course, and you establish the book, go through a series of editing and writing drafts and submitting all that, and it's a very self-guided platform that they use on Kindle. How many of you have used Kindle to publish anything? Raise your hand. Kelly and who else? Keep your hands up. Kelly and Susan, maybe. But yeah, I highly recommend it. Use all these tools that are at your disposal. What was your experience, Kelly? Did you use Kindle?
Yeah, we have a hardback and a paperback and Kindle as well. And Kindle and the paperbacks are the easiest because Amazon will publish those. Well, Kindle is obviously you can just download it, but with the paperbacks, they will print that to order.
Right.
So they've got a whole, and so you can edit your book. If you see you got a typo in there, you can edit it tonight, and whoever buys it, by tomorrow is going to be able to get the new copy of it. So they do make it very, very, very easy to publish and to self-publish for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you connect your business account to it, and all the royalties and all the proceeds will go back to that. It's seamless to the user, and that's really what we're looking for right here: the convenience of using that platform to really publish. So I highly recommend it. Share your knowledge, share your wisdom. Victor, you're next, so you need to get in there, Victor, and publish with Kindle. I know you can do it. Everybody here in this room here tonight can do this. It's no issues. Did that answer your question?
If I could just throw something else in there, George, if you are going to publish, you got to think about what the purpose is for your books. A lot of people use it as business cards nowadays, right? I mean, they go and they speak and they charge money for their speeches, and then they could give their books while they're there. And the people that I've talked to that actually make a living off speaking, Chris Ye is a good example of that. The fact that he's published that book and he has that book at all of his speeches allows him to charge $25,000 an hour as opposed to something less. Of course, not everybody gets to that level, but so many people now self-publish so that they can actually have something to give away in their.
Yeah, I'll reserve those accolades for you, Kelly, and Todd. Todd, you're next. You're also a professor. You need to you'll publish something soon.
I'm on it, dude. I'm on it.
But as you and I talked the other day, for me, it was not about the money or about marketing of this book. It was more about substance and sharing my journey through HBAP and through the Harvard Business School. And if it makes money, well, good enough. But if it's not, to me, that was not important. It was more about number one, the exposure, and number two, sharing that knowledge.
Well, Jorg, thank you. If anybody has any other last questions, I've got one more question looking at the time here, and we can go to overtime afterwards. So what excites you about the future? I mean, this is like forward thinking. Where do you see this going in terms of industry wise?
I wish I was 40 years younger. Let's put it that way.
Oh, man.
Because I tell you what, digital transformation, AI as we know it today, it is really, the sky's the limit. There's so much that we can do as humans now, powered by this intelligence and augmented reality. And it is incredible. And if this had been online maybe 20, 30 years ago, wow, imagine. So I cannot imagine what is going on with us in the future as a human race. I think we are just going to get better as humans. And there's going to be plenty of work. I use an analogy of the airline industry, right? Before planes, we didn't have airports as we know them today, but people on ships thought that we're going to be out of a business, out of a job. But could you imagine all the jobs that were created by the airline industry? is just amazing. You just can't imagine how much more we've gained by creating an airplane that will fly humans from point A to point B in no time, right? Compared to going by surface, by ships or land. So it's really amazing how we are transforming the way we are, extending our lifespan, getting much more knowledge, and being able to share that with others. So I think the future, I'm very optimistic about the future of the human race.
Awesome. So good. I'm gonna pull Susan back up here. Susan.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a lovely way to end too, Jorg. It was just great. In the midst of all this uncertainty and hype and everything, that's a lovely way to think about the world. And thank you for telling us about this. And we really look forward to edition 2 for those of us that have read your first book, and excited that you're going to send us the questions too. And then don't forget, everybody, you can sign up to get a copy of the first edition, thanks to Kelly, and really, really appreciate this. And Jorg, it was also really good for you to give us a little insight on how to publish a book, and then also get Kelly's, like, don't edit it too much. That was some good advice as well. So thank you for doing this.
My pleasure, Susan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, so folks, just please, I put a form to sign up. You must fill that form out in order to get a copy of the current edition of Jorg's book. Please make sure to do that. Lastly, before we end the recording, please do stick around for some overtime. Please do also fill out the survey at the end of the session. And don't forget, next week, Andrea Brimmer, founder of Hortitech, will be joining us for a presentation on her startup. Thank you all for coming. This was an honor and a pleasure. Jorg, dude, we need to hang out more. Thank you all.